Welcome everyone to our in-week, during the week live stream. It's not something that we normally do, but with the extenuating circumstances, we thought we'd like to come out and talk with you guys. Dave's here, of course. He's at home right now, so we're connected to Zoom again, like we did when we were on the road. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing good, man. How was work?
Um, it was long and tiresome, and yeah, as some of you guys know, I work graveyard shifts, so this is my you know evening right now. So we thought we'd come to you guys right after work. So I'm really fresh, but yeah, it was all right. It wasn't too busy, so that's good.
Everybody in my life now works nights. You and Jackie both. It's hard to get this together.
Oh,
Um,
I saw a post from her saying her.
Circadian rhythms.
That's right. I'm having a little issue with that myself.
Yeah, I mean, we have so much trouble getting together because when I'm useful and awake, she's sleeping, and when she's awake in the middle of the night and the whole world's asleep.
Yeah.
And
No,
so
it's
when she has her days off, she still wants to hang out in the middle of the night.
well,
So
I'm trying to do it differently. Like when my weekend starts, I try to just stay up that whole next day and go to bed at 9 or 10 o'clock that night and get a full night's sleep. But then when my work week starts again, man, I'm in a bad way that first night.
you really are a unusually hearty character,
Yeah,
you know?
it's probably
So
it's probably not worth it. I'll be honest.
probably not. Do we have anybody joining us yet?
Yeah, we got a few people here. Looks like we got about 180 people showing up so far.
Oh, that's fantastic. So let's not do too much visiting about our personal lives. We all know how Jason feels about that, don't we, guys? So
No, yeah, let's get
uh
into it. I mean, Derek Chauvin guilty on all counts. And just a
yeah.
refresher, those counts are, you know what? I got a little picture here. You can't see it, but I'm just going to show it real quick. Second degree murder, which is unintentional killing while committing a felony. Third degree
Yes.
murder, which is perpetrating an eminently dangerous act and evincing
Evincing.
a depraved
Evincing a
mind
deranged
or
mind or depraved
showing
mind.
showing a depraved mind. And then count three was second degree manslaughter, culpable negligence, creating unreasonable risk. Now,
Which which I would think number 3 is the one that I'm most comfortable with given the evidence I've seen. That
yeah,
seems like that's the only one that they could plausibly convict
well,
on.
also, I think there's something to be said for this, and I'm not hearing many people say this. How can you find a person guilty of, let's say, third degree murder, perpetuating or perpetrating an eminently dangerous act with a depraved mind, and also find them guilty of negligence, creating unreasonable risk? It seems
It's
to
one or
me
the other.
it has to be one or the other, and to me, it seems all three of these charges are that way. Either he was committing a felony and unintentionally killed George Floyd, or
Which
he
would be the
did
first
not,
charge.
or he's culpable of negligence, right? You can't pick three, and that makes me
Right, and
think
if he was negligent, how could he have a depraved mind? I mean, it's
that's
then he's
right,
not being negligent, he's being purposefully harmful. So
right,
you're right, and you've been saying that these are self-contradictory charges from the get-go.
that's right, and I think ultimately that shows how much stress the jury was under. They just threw their hands up and said, "Look, guilty on all charges. I want to go home and go to sleep tonight. I don't want to be doxxed. I don't want to be the person blamed for anything. Let's just say guilty on all counts and let's call it a day."
Well, and Biden sort of alludes to that in that little clip that I think you have there.
Right. I have. I,
Just quote. Go ahead and read that.
okay. Yeah. So Biden said the other day, said after it, he said, "Quote: A jury who heard the evidence carried out their civic duty in the midst of an extraordinary moment under extraordinary pressure. For so many, it feels like it took all of that for the judicial system to deliver a just basic accountability."
So basically, what he's saying is we had to apply this kind of pressure. We had to have jurors be frightened for the well being of their city and even possibly their homes in order to have the type of justice that we were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, in order that it not be based strictly on the judicial merits of the case, but on the emotion.
That's right. And ultimately, he's given so much fuel for the overturning of this verdict.
He did it
With
yesterday morning, right before the verdict, before we knew that the jury had been returned,
That's
before we
right.
knew that they had a verdict. I didn't get the complete quote. I was traveling yesterday morning to a meeting I was taking yesterday, and when I left in the morning, I posted on Facebook that my prediction was 2 out of 3 at least, and probably all 3 would be guilty. That was my prediction. Then I got on the freeway, and then I heard, "Oh, the jury's back." And by the time I got to my lunch meeting, and they still hadn't done it. They hadn't come back with it, so I had to go through that whole meeting wondering what was going on. In the very end, we pulled our phones out and checked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ultimately, it's the same tactic that the KKK used to make sure that black people who were innocent back in the day were found guilty, and that white people who were guilty were found innocent. Right? They're they're
Put
they're
the
they're
pressure on.
they're standing outside going, if this doesn't go how we like it, we're burning some houses down. We're burning some businesses down. And that's what they did.
Right.
And I mean, with Maxine Waters as well, coming out and saying, we got to get more confrontational. How do you get more confrontational than looting a Target?
Right, and was it in Biden's speech or Pelosi's speech that her comments where they're talking about the restraint that was shown in these peaceful protests before? They're just erasing the riots from history.
That's right.
They're just erased that they said nothing about that. Although I will credit Joe Biden with saying that one thing in his speech where he said, the people who would do violence are not interested in social justice. So there was that little kernel of truth inside 10 minutes of absolute BS, starting with the idea that black people go to sleep every night, even in their own beds. Every day they live with the trauma and the scare of will they be able to make it safe home that night?
Right.
And this they keep saying this, but they never say, because we have many problems in these neighborhoods, and it is infinitely more likely that you will be killed, not by a police officer, but by one of the people that the police officers are in your community to try to round up. And
Right.
every time we don't allow them to round up a criminal like George Floyd, I mean, he wasn't in the commission of a violent act at this point. So, there's some ambiguity in this, but he was not a model citizen, and neither was this other kid, this on Andre Wright. What was his name?
Dante Wright.
Dante Wright.
Yeah.
Dante Wright. He was not a model citizen either. Only 20 years old, and already was awaiting trial on a armed robbery charge. And George Floyd's previous thing was armed robbery. So
That's right.
basically, these two heroes are both armed robbers, allegedly.
Well, one of them was
Dante
convicted.
Wright is not.
One of them was
Yeah, but
convicted. George Floyd was convicted. I think he was
he
in
was
jail
convicted.
and prison a total of 7 times.
Right.
Right? So
And
it's not like this guy's was walking down the street, as they always try to proclaim. You're walking down the street and you get roughed up by the police for no reason. And that has happened, and that does happen. Don't get me wrong. And the cops who do that should be held accountable, but that wasn't the case in this situation.
Right. And we can never really tell if there's any racist motivation behind it at all, because that happens to white guys and Hispanic guys. Of course, Joe Biden is trying to now get Hispanic people into this thing.
That's right.
And they're not buying it so much because they're so busy working that they're not playing the victim card very hard lately.
Well, I got a friend who always brings this up, and if you say the word Hispanic in front of him, he says, "What race is that?" Right?
Yeah,
What race is that? Because they're white. Most Hispanics are white, but there's millions of black Hispanics as well. Go further south of the border, that's not a race. Like that's just another way to divide us.
Like your kids will be half Kentuckian and half Mexican.
I mean, my wife's American, but she's her grandma came here from Mexico.
Yeah. So, but your kids will qualify for all kinds of what am I looking for? The word when you go to college and you get free
You get advantages.
scholarships.
Yeah,
Scholarships.
scholarships,
You're the
advantages.
you're the scholar here.
Right.
You should know this, but I think your kids could be known as Hispanic.
There should be a special class for
Yeah.
Hispanics, and that's a small minority of
Hispanic.
people.
That's the Seiler family, the
Yeah,
Hispanics.
yeah. No,
I know
it's
it's not you're just trying to divide people up by anything at all other than merit,
well, I
by
mean, that's
anything at all other than hard work.
and I think that's besides for me, besides the fact that the pressure was put on this jury that I don't think they could get a fair trial, that Chauvin could get a fair trial. The other side of it is after this comes out that all these charges are found guilty on, you got people who won't even take the win because their ultimate goal is not about going like, you know what, justice prevails. What a good system. No, they have to come out with, this is not justice. This, maybe this worked one time, maybe, but it's like they really want us to go after each other. I think Gavin Newsom came out here, since we're here in California, he came out and he said, if George Floyd would still be alive if he looked like me, right? Insinuating that white people aren't killed by the police. And we all know white people get killed by the police at about twice the rate that black people do, as far as how many are killed.
Well, and it's so amazing, these people who genuinely have done so much to get their own white privilege squared away. Somebody like Gavin Newsom, who's very much an insider in these political inside moves, lives in 2 mansions, both in gated neighborhoods. His children go to private school. Dude, if you feel guilty about your white privilege, stop playing into it. Stop trying to separate yourself from the people. Go live down in the suburbs with everybody else. Be a regular guy. Don't be an elite if you're worried about the advantage of elitists, because look where I live. I'm not exactly elite. I mean, look at that appalling backdrop you've got going to the guitars. Those guitars are going to be on the block pretty soon when the other baby comes.
That's exactly.
You better enjoy those guitars now, buddy, because the dream killer is on the way.
I haven't played guitar for more than 4 minutes in about a year and a half. And that's the God's honest truth. Sometimes I'll pick it up, I'll sit down, I'll play a half a song. My fingers will go ahead and start to hurt a little bit because I haven't played in so long. And then I'll just put it up. And I'll go wash some dishes.
Daddy. No. I came home one day from work when I was married, and we had 2 kids, a little girl, a little bit older than yours, and a little boy, just a year old or so. I came home from work one day, and the stereo was gone. And I said, what happened? Did we get robbed? My wife says, no, I put all that stuff out in the garage. I thought, since you're out there a lot, I think maybe, you'd just like to have your stereo out in the garage. She moved the stereo out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I knew.
The stereo. You can't even listen to music in the house.
I knew it was only a question of time before I'd finally run into the greater world.
Andrew said that seafoam is sweet, talking about the color of the guitar. And then somebody else said, and we thank you for not playing guitar. If you heard me, that's never been a truer statement.
He's actually a pretty good guitar player. You actually have heard him on some bits of music.
That's true. That's true. My little intro. I made a lot of stuff for some stuff you guys heard in my videos anyway. Obama come out and said, true justice requires that we come to terms with the fact that Black Americans are treated differently every day.
Yeah, I mean, like, for instance, he got to be president because he was Black.
That's right.
Let's face it. He would not have been fast-tracked. He would not have ever shown up, and when he was a state senator from Illinois, he would not have been given the keynote address if he wasn't Black.
That's right.
And I mean, Joe Biden said he's so clean. He's so clean and presentable.
And he's articulate. He can speak.
Right.
He's Black and he can speak.
And
That's what Joe Biden said.
Right. And now Kamala Harris, disliked by virtually everybody in her party, rejected by the American people in the primary process, was then brought back in to bolster up Joe and be his successor.
Hmm.
You know, and I say it'll be 2 years. That's been my prediction all along. And but she would not be in that position if she weren't black. I'm not saying she's not worth something. I'm not
Right.
saying that Obama would not be successful with his degree of talents, but he had a narrative to work with from day one,
Well, we know
and that's
100.
all he's ever had to do is agree with that narrative, and he goes forward.
Well, we knew 100% that Joe Biden came once he secured the nomination. He said it out loud. I'm
Yes,
looking for a female minority, right?
and we knew it was probably going to be Kamala Harris. I mean, I was predicting Kamala Harris, and I got that one right.
Well,
I don't. I try not to talk about other predictions I make that don't come true.
that's yeah, that's 1 out of 5. No, I'm just kidding. Um,
They go down the memory hole.
yeah. Well, no
I
one
just
remember.
pass
No
them
one
over to my Democrat friend and say, erase this.
erased this. You know, speaking of treating black people differently, you know who gets treated differently is someone like a Candace Owens or a Tim Scott, someone, Dr. Ben Carson, somebody who comes out and says, you know what, I don't quite see it like you guys see it. And
Right.
they get demonized, they get called Uncle Toms, they get told that they're brainwashed, that something's wrong, right? When when we try to attack, I try to I don't want to say the word attack, but I try to go after Obama on what he says or what he stands for, because I don't care about his skin color. I care about what he's trying to do. And so I
Right.
talk, that's what we talk about, and that's what we want to talk about. And it's always skin color from their side. If you're black and conservative, it's about your skin color. If you're black and you're liberal, we don't care. We just want to
Right.
talk to you about the issues.
And if we hit him harder because he's black, that would be a sign of racism. But if we don't hit him hard at all because he's black, well, that's a type of racism too.
Mhm.
That's saying that I don't hold everybody to the same standard. And we've been very firm on that since we started our channel, that one standard for all. You know, I go so far as to say one culture for all. And people think that I mean that there shouldn't be any black music. No, I mean that there should be music, that every black person and white person should feel free to express whatever music they want. And then we exchange it all freely. That way it puts us constantly into interaction with one another. If you say this type of music can only legitimately be played by black people, you're trying to segregate part of the art world.
That's right.
And so I reject that, and I don't think that a black person can naturally sing the blues any more than a white person cannot naturally sing the blues. All
Well,
that's
they tried to
nonsense.
call
And
they tried to call out
go ahead.
Daryl Hall from Hall and Oates on that, about cultural appropriation, and he was like, "Buddy, this is the music I grew up listening to. This is my music. This is what I'm into. This is what I do." And
Philly soul.
it's
It's been with him from day one.
right. It's they're doing the exact opposite of what you would want to bring people together, right? You would want
Yes.
me and you to go to the blues jam and play, and we all get along and we have a good time, and we
Right.
walk away and go, man, that was a good time. I really enjoyed that. Instead, they want to come in and say, wait a second, this sounds like a song you shouldn't be playing.
Let's get the white people out of here, and then the blues jam will just belong to the black people, and
Right.
that way, black people and white people won't be interacting. See how that'll solve the problem? These people, I just want to smack people.
Right.
Do you remember when Wynton Marsalis, the trumpet player, came to the fore? He was known for being a classical player when he first came up, and because he was playing in orchestras, and nobody ever said Wynton Marsalis should not be playing trumpet in a symphony orchestra. Everybody celebrated that. Oh, he came out of the black community in New Orleans and decided to be a classical player. We weren't saying, well, hey, dude, stop appropriating the culture of dead white guys. No, we were saying, great, fantastic. And so the same thing should be
Right.
working in all different angles. And it does work in the musicians community
That's right.
in exactly that way. It's a place where you just can't find
Right.
any racism.
No, the people who are doing that are not the people in music. There might be a few, but they're people who are motivated by the politics of
Right.
the day, right? I've jammed with many people. I was in a band. We had a Hispanic and black lead singers. We had a Japanese drummer. We had an American Indian um, uh, playing on guitar. We had another Japanese guy. We had a female playing keys, and there was never an issue. We never had a problem because we got together, we all got creative and we played music, and that's what it was about. We never
Right.
had it was never, you know what, that song sounds a little bit too much this way. I think we're gonna offend people. It's like, no, we had some songs that sounded Indian, like the country India. We were just making music, and some things just come together and we go like, oh, that sounds like that. And that's beautiful, and no one had a problem with it. But you get someone like a Gavin Newsom coming in, or somebody who wants to divide us, and they'll point those things out and try to make a problem from it.
They very clearly are now, they are trying to produce something like a race war. They are just going, now they're going to hold this guy George Floyd up as a hero, and I already did a piece about this back in the day about making of a martyr for all the wrong reasons, and in fact they are making him into a martyr. And what Nancy Pelosi said, just want to thank George Floyd for giving his life in the name of justice, or whatever her comment was.
Sacrificing his life.
Sacrificing his life. That's exactly what martyrdom means. That's exactly it. To sacrifice. He didn't sacrifice his life in the name of justice. He was breaking the law on at least 3 different counts that day, and had played fast and loose with the law for a good long time. He wasn't, he was trying to pass a bill, and then he was trying to stay out of jail by putting up a big fuss there.
That's
and
right.
You can't blame a guy for trying to stay out of jail. But that's not fighting for justice.
That's right.
And so they're encouraging people to fly in the face of police authority, because now you could be a martyr too. How many guys out there that are desperately unhappy for some reason? They haven't done well in school, they washed out as an athlete, whatever it is, and they think, man, I'm never going to amount to anything, especially since all the white people keep telling me the systemic racism is going to hold me down. I wonder if maybe I could, do a little suicide by cop thing here and make sure there's some camera running, and then my family will get $27 million too, and I'd end up in the history books. How many people are starting to get that ideation going? A lot of them.
I think so. Well, I think
these black kids are far more likely to resist arrest than white kids.
That's right, and that's a huge driver of this whole problem. But also, I do want to point out, you have people like Rashida Tlaib, who says, we need to abolish policing, basically. You got other people who have said that, defund the police and so on. Most of the Democrats aren't willing to come out and say they support that. But part of me, and I feel pretty confident about it, that most of them believe it, because what they're doing is trying to create a system where no one would want to be a police officer. No one would want to do their job. Just look at this case in Ohio where this cop pulls up 15 or 16-year-old girls, got a knife. She tries to attack one girl. Cop says, "Hey, what are you doing? Stop, 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 stop." She goes after another girl. She's actively trying to stab the girl. The cop shoots her, and everybody's like, "Oh, he killed an unarmed girl." It's like, no, he didn't kill an unarmed girl. He shot somebody who was actively trying to stab another person. What would you say if he wouldn't have did anything and the lady would have got stabbed in the neck, and we just watched that lady kill this other girl? What right? But
Right.
they're
we wouldn't have heard about it. We
Say-
wouldn't have heard about it. Was that a girl of color?
Of course.
So we wouldn't have heard about it. If the cop had done nothing and there had been a murder, we would have only heard about a cop who didn't defend.
He didn't.
I don't know if
That's
it was a white cop.
Yes,
and the
a white
person
cop.
who died,
A white cop didn't defend a black woman
Right.
being attacked. That's what the narrative would be. Now, instead, the narrative is, Crump, the lawyer for the George Floyd family, the guy who keeps showing up at every instance. He came out immediately and said, 15-year-old girl killed by cops unarmed, and it's just not the case. If we can't stand behind a cop who shoots someone who's actively trying to stab another person to death, then yeah, we can't have cops. No one will be a cop.
I heard I agree with you, and and especially in the cities where people need the most. I mean, it's really hard to be a cop in the city where there is a high level of desperation and a high level of crime, and it's just really bad. But I was thinking when Biden was saying that comment, and somebody else in the last couple of days had said something where even while they're sleeping, they have to be, even in their beds at night. And I'm thinking, where are they coming with that? Because the only thing I remember about that is like a bullet flies in from a drive-by shooting and kills a little girl. We've had many of those in LA.
Right.
But I was
Chicago.
thinking,
Yeah.
oh, you know what that is? That's that's the Breonna Taylor thing,
Hmm.
where they're saying because she was asleep at night, right? And then somebody banged on the door. So I think they're gearing up to bring that one back to life again. Because usually that's the way the hive mind works. They have these talking points and they start floating something out. So that this is like next week's outrage.
Hmm.
So now that this is over, um, what's the status of the Breonna Taylor thing? I just don't know.
I'm not sure. As far as the last thing I heard is that
Has there been a trial in that?
no one was charged, because the boyfriend, when they banged on the door, shot one of the police officers.
Oh,
So they had a no knock warrant, right? But they
right,
did knock. They didn't just bust the door down. They actually knocked, announced who they were. The boyfriend shoots a
right,
cop. They shoot back, kill Breonna Taylor, and we're
right,
supposed to believe that the cops just barged in and just shot her while she's asleep
right.
in her bed.
And they said that term no knock warrant hundreds and hundreds of times warrant hundreds of times because that's how propaganda is done. You realize you bank on the fact that people are not going to put two and two together. They're just going to people are getting their news at a glance, they're overhearing it, somebody else talking about it, and you say no knock warrant, no knock warrant. That means the cops didn't even knock. Well, they did knock.
That's right.
They didn't all that means is that even though they didn't have the legal responsibility to knock, they did anyway.
That's right.
But that might make the cops, like when you saw the body cam footage in the closing arguments at Derek Chauvin's trial, you saw that the how hard these guys worked to not hurt George Floyd.
Hmm.
To try, just they were just trying to get him to cooperate, and he just was fighting them for what 16 minutes,
Right.
something like that, before the 10-minute thing where he's being held.
Right.
So uh, you know, and the Rodney King thing, I mean, you drive at high speed drunk through half the city, and all that's remembered is the cops beat you up, and then you go to the Wikipedia page and it says Rodney King, activist.
Hmm.
What is George Floyd now going to be considered a civil rights hero?
Absolutely. Joe Biden said that he's done more for the civil rights movement than Martin Luther King Jr.
Well, he said he had more of an impact internationally. So
Okay.
that can be seen as maybe, with Biden, that can be seen as him trying to say that because of the modern world, this thing did go around the world, maybe more than the shooting of Martin Luther King. But that is completely what he was comparing him
That's right.
at least evenly with Martin Luther King.
Right.
And Martin Luther King was an actual civil rights hero.
That's right.
I mean,
He was a
this guy put his
peaceful.
life on the line.
That's right. He was a peaceful guy who did it the right way. He would be so upset at what we see from BLM and the looting and the rioting and the fires. He would be so upset about that. He would be telling everyone, "What are you guys doing? You're hurting our cause. You're hurting our chances." And they are.
It's what the left is doing is the exact opposite. I mean, it's not even just a little bit opposite. It's the exact opposite of everything that Dr. King stood for.
Mhm.
And we kind of started getting there. We started getting there in the 70s. I remember going to these big package shows, with the Shy Lights and the Dramatics and the Spinners, and all these package show acts would be there. And I'd go to these big stadiums right down in Inglewood. I go to the Inglewood Forum. Man, I was like, me and my buddy were the only white guys in the whole place. And all the black people are dressed to the nines, and they're in the leisure suits of the day and the nice velvet hats and everything. There was all kinds of, really sharp looking people there, and they were always totally friendly to us. I mean, maybe there might be 50 white people in the whole place, and the rest of it, because it's, where Inglewood is. And,
Sure.
and we just had utter joy hanging out with those people. And it was never any issue. And I was thinking, civil rights worked.
That's right.
And then, a decade after that, we started getting hip hop coming back in, and then the hustlers who wanted to get their piece of hip hop started making it more about race, and started making it more about police and rough neighborhoods and hoes and guns and shooting and killing and all of that stuff. And boy, the degeneration just took over. And
That's right.
everybody on the left was afraid to criticize any aspect of that, because I don't want to be called racist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But and then they started, if anybody did, like I'm about to do pretty soon when I, do my video about why I hate rap, I'll be called a racist for that.
Yeah.
And so anybody who says, no, man, protect the legitimacy of Black culture is a racist. Right. And anybody who says, no, allow and exalt even the worst parts of Black music, Black movies, culture in general.
Of anything in our culture.
Yeah, WAP, for instance, WAP.
Yeah.
At the same time that, wet ass, what else, whatever it is,
P-word
was getting like 50 million views of the video on YouTube, and that's on that same week that Cardi B was just blowing up crazy with that song. What did Joe Biden do? Rather than saying, I don't really think this is the kind of thing that we ought to be thinking is representative of the Black community, instead of saying that which would have been truthful and dignified, he had her on. He went on, had her interview him. The guy, the next president of the United States gets interviewed by this barely literate nothing.
That's right.
And then he kissed her butt the whole time.
Right. Because I mean, it's all about the vote, right?
It's all about the vote.
It's all about the vote. So, and I think that's a big part of course, what we're seeing with that division, right? As long as they can keep them hating me and you, and keep us at odds where we can't even have a dialogue. Voter ID is racist. Only 18 days of pre-voting before an election is racist in Georgia. Like, as long as they keep us fighting over these kind of things and keep that group angry, then that group's going to be motivated to show up at the polls and work the polls, first of all, show up to get out to vote and all those things. And it's going to be a force that the Democrats are going to continue to try and keep in that hostile, emotional state, because it benefits them politically.
It's so disheartening. And
Absolutely.
I was thinking, this bothered me a lot more than I thought it would, and not because, of the human sacrifice that is happening with Derek Chauvin, because this is really what this is. They demand human sacrifice. You have to, it's just like all the cancel culture. Each one of those is a human sacrifice. Okay, here we're worshiping at the altar of all things woke and at the hive mind ideation around that. So we're going to, Al Franken, sorry, human sacrifice. Matt Lauer, human sacrifice. Sorry, you're out of a job. You don't get your day in court, whatever. It's just a human sacrifice. And Derek Chauvin's a human sacrifice. It's all this. It's this kind of paganistic thing that really is very much a religion on the side of the left. So, but more than that, I mean, even more than that, last night, the things that were really bothering me was that they seem to be so going all in on the Black vote. It seems to, for a while there, that they were just one of the things, but now it just seems like they're putting all their chips into this idea of systemic racism. That is going to be as big of a propaganda movement in the next year. And coming up to 2020, coming up to the midterms, as the Russian collusion thing was 3 years ago, the way they just go, this is the big one. We're riding this one. Because I've heard people say, oh, now they're really going to start talking about climate change. That'll be their new thing. They're not going to talk about climate change. They want hate.
That's right.
They want fear. And they figured out this is the way to do it. And as long as they keep making Black people feel like they are like they are victims and that they are not held accountable to the law in the same way, they'll keep getting more of these shootings because more
Mhm.
kids will keep resisting
Well,
arrest.
let me take your idea a little further about the human sacrificing, right? So, like you said, Matt Lauer or the former Minnesota guy,
Yeah,
the
Al Franken.
comedian Al Franken, um, George Floyd. They wanted him sacrificed as well, right?
Yes.
That's what they're doing, and yeah, Chauvin's just collateral damage almost at this point. That the sacrifice was George Floyd, just like Nancy Pelosi said. They want another young black man to resist arrest to the point he gets shot and killed, that he gets hurt and he gets injured, because it just lets them keep this narrative alive, even though the guy is breaking the law, even though the guy is a bad guy, the guy's fighting the cops, whatever it might be, all that goes out the window. No one talks about that part of it. They will not allow anyone to talk about that part of it because if we talk about that part, it takes away that sacrifice. It takes away that martyrdom, right? Because oh,
Right.
he could have done something to change it. Oh, well, now that makes him partly the problem, doesn't it? And they
Partly
can't allow
culpable.
that to be.
Right, and every everybody who's involved in self-help and trying to understand how people, kind of get their power in life together, they're always talking about you have to have agency. You have to know that your life is based mostly on your own actions.
That's right.
And this works, doesn't matter what color you are. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter what color you are. If you get up in the morning and go, wow, yesterday I was kind of a screw up. Okay, where did I mess up? And you look at for your own thing. On occasion you will find that it was somebody else's fault, in which case you don't interact with those people anymore. But 9 times out of 10, it's something that you did. I
Mhm.
did. I could have done better. I could have seen that coming. I didn't show up right on time. You know what? I wasn't quite prepared enough.
Right.
And then you can learn. See,
Right.
as long as you're looking on your own end, all of that stuff you can change. If you put the problem outside of you, you can't change your fate. And that you rob people of the energy of life that counts. And if you do it even the more evil thing, which is you put it outside of them and then you make it invisible with
That's right.
something like systemic racism. Nobody can spot it. Where are the examples?
It's
Where
genius.
are it's genius. So it's like they've created in their religion, they've created this Satan figure where they think that okay, they and anytime they want, they can just say that was the hand of Satan by saying that was the hand of systemic racism.
Mhm.
So now you have to do that more prayers toward us because we're your saviors. They don't believe in Jesus, but they believe that they are Jesus. They think that they are the saviors of the world, and that this victimized class of people will worship them and be coming to them for solutions and just keep voting them into power. And it's just diabolically well connected in terms of sewing up the whole trap.
Mhm.
It's like the trap is just tightly webbed on each side.
Right.
And the only people like Candace Owens, as you say, and Thomas Sowell and people like that who have been trying to fight this, they are denigrated. They're not really black. They're they're traitors. They're Uncle Toms.
That's right.
It's just evil.
Here we had
It's
Lonesome Dave come in. He said, "The elite are afraid of a united population. That's why they want us divided." Yeah,
oh boy, that's good.
it's
I
the
like that.
elite, it's the Washington swamp, it's the people in power. They all benefit from our us being divided, and they have to cause that in any way possible. And if they can tell you, like you're saying, I can look back in my life and point out nonstop counts of me either being lazy, me not trying hard enough, me not learning something, me being belligerent, me insulting someone in a way I shouldn't do. These things that all ended up not benefiting me, right? That made
Right.
my life harder in some way. I did all those things on my own, and if someone was there, next to me, going like, "Come on, man, that's not your fault. You're white." Then it'd be like, "You know what? I am white. That's
Right.
the problem. It's everybody else's problem. And then where does that put me? Now that puts me, when I get pulled over, I'm belligerent right away. When I go to the job interview, I have a reason not to prepare for it because I'm not gonna get the job anyway. You know,
Right.
yeah, I don't take care of my kids because, it doesn't matter. My kids are gonna grow up in the same crappy time when I did, where nothing is possible for anybody anyway, and so on. It gives them such an excuse, and it's the exact opposite. Tough love is what we need. We need the exact
Exactly.
opposite.
And we've both been involved with maybe smoking a little bit too much reefer and maybe hanging out, and, instead of going on the hard jobs. I certainly did. And I had a string of women in my life who just, because I could do what I do on stage, and I could be impressive when I needed to in some ways. Because of that, they would sort of make allowances for me and make excuses for my drinking too much and my not taking care of my bills and things like that. And I selected women based on that, really. Oh, this is a great woman who will drive me around while I can drink, and she's going to get me to the gig on time, get
Yeah,
me home safe. She has a nice car, and because mine breaks down a lot. All that stuff, I was escaping my own responsibility, and the person who suffered for it most was me.
that's right.
I'm the one that suffered from it most because my credibility began to dissolve, and my marriage went away and things like that. That wasn't a direct result of alcoholism, but it was part of it
Well,
for
how
certain.
crazy is it that once you started getting that straight, you became a conservative?
It's amazing, isn't it?
Isn't that crazy? Like,
Right.
and that's what would
It,
happen, and that's what would happen to a lot of people in the black community if they got their stuff together. They would realize they've been sold a bill of goods that is not correct, and that they're the ones that had the power the whole time to
right.
make their life better.
Well, that's the blue collar logic is so much that because when you're on a job, because I had to paint all these houses, and I'd show up and they'd be ugly, and the people would be disappointed in their house, right? And now for the next few days, I make them uglier, and then gradually I begin to make them better. You cannot escape the process of hard work, and you cannot say, well, I'm going to paint it first, and then if I'm in the mood, I'll do the prep work. No, you have to do it in the way that it's laid out, or you will fail and you
That's
will
right.
not get paid. So, I mean, my job was my tough love. My job was my honest advisor that never lied to me. My
Mhm.
job never lied to me. If I didn't show up, nobody came and gave me some money anyway. Except
Right,
those enabler women would kind of cover me for a while. But
right.
after a while, even I had to mature.
Well, it's one of those
Because I,
things
I
too.
had to make a living.
Painting's a great example because I know you had to try it one time where you just paint over the crappy paint that was there, and then 6 weeks later, it's like, "Why is all this paint falling off? It doesn't make sense." Or, "Why is this paint not sticking?" And, "Why does it look so bad?" Right? That's what we're not even allowing
and
them
there
to
was
learn.
and nobody Yeah, and there wasn't some other person, some corrector of society's issues, like the painting social justice warrior was not going to go around alcohol problem. We'll fix this for him and make sure he gets paid anyway. Nope.
That's right.
There was nobody fixing my problems.
It's funny, we had a little
I
bit of
just
a
saw
We had a little bit
internet.
of a slowdown in your vocal, like, I guess the internet maybe was slowing down.
Yeah,
It
I
was
saw a
kinda
little
funny.
prompt
It's
that
like,
said,
"Yeah, that's the day we were talking about that you're not anymore." Let's see.
yeah.
We had veteran Red Beard. He wrote, "Nancy Pelosi even thanked Floyd for his sacrifice in a press conference." Yeah, we talked about that earlier, Red Beard. That's exactly right. It's a shame. Um, we they want, like, you don't thank somebody for a sacrifice. You don't thank someone unless you want more people to sacrifice,
That's
right?
right. You
Like, if my
you don't
wife says,
make
"Can't you
martyrs
sacrifice?"
out of petty criminals if
Right.
you're not looking for more martyrs.
That's exactly right. And I mean, if my wife comes and says, "I need you to sacrifice some time, let's say, and do these things," you know what I mean? Like, come on. Like, it's so absurd. They want more of it,
But,
and they're doing
if
everything to make sure it happens.
yeah, if your wife was to come in right now, put her hand on your shoulder and say, Jason, I know that you're sacrificing the time that you would really like to have your daughter drooling all over you, and I know that you really want to be doing those dishes, but I want to thank you for the little bit of extra income that you get by spending this time talking with Dave. You do this every day.
That
If your wife called this a
well,
sacrifice.
if there was a little bit more income, maybe I'd try to make this our everyday. What
Yeah,
somebody asked earlier, a regular comment said, "Why aren't these guys on the radio?" And thank you for that comment. I mean, radio stations, where you at? Give us a call.
right.
We'll figure it out. No, we got a situation where when the best case scenario happens in this case, all the left can talk about is that's not really justice. That's not really a good thing. A good thing is when you know everything is so perfect in harmony and cops are no longer having the need to do their job and so on. And it's like, well, the stuff you've been doing last year's actually made crime a lot worse in your communities.
It has.
The shootings in Los Angeles, the shootings in cities like Chicago, New York, and Minneapolis, they're all on the up. Murders are on the up, right? And it's on
They
the
are.
up because precisely of what they're doing. And how else can you uh, what else can you take away? But they want it to get worse.
Well, that's another thing that I wanted to bring up with you is once we get over the block parties about how justice was kind of served, sort of, but not quite, we're going to hear an awful lot of stuff on CNN. I will say that every day on CNN, they will be talking about. They'll have people bring on. Well, they'll talk about the sentencing. They'll be talking about the sentencing because it's going to be 8 weeks until the sentencing. That's 2 more months of unrest potentially, and 2 more months of them to set a new narrative, and in order to cause some serious unrest, just about the time summer gets here.
Mhm.
And what that will be is they will say, but in this case, chances are, since he has no priors, he'll probably do very little time. The maximum would be 40 years on this charge, but we know he won't do that. And the time will be served concurrently. So he's probably going to do about 5 years. What 5 years? A guy died.
Mhm.
10 minutes and 28 seconds? 5 years? And
Right.
they're going to be all wound up again, and then now the judge will be thinking, talk about pressure. Now the judge will be going, well, shit, what now? What can I do?
That's
There's
right.
no way I can put this in, and the appeals process will be going. There's no way I can give this guy the max on all these charges. He's not allowed to.
Mhm.
The sentencing guidelines aren't just suggestions; they're written into law.
Well, I heard that Minnesota also has uh enhancements, so that there could be some enhancements because he's a police officer and this guy's not, so he has this other duty and so on, so they might try to give him as much as they can. But you're exactly right, it doesn't matter what they give them, they're going to be in the streets telling us they better give him the most up until that happens. And if he gets the most,
Right.
then you'll hear Joe Biden come out and saying, it was the pressure that really helped us get this criminal in jail for the rest of his life. That's what did it. Let's keep that pressure going, and which is exactly opposite of what we want.
Yeah,
That's not justice.
let's get some more of these mostly peaceful riots going. Come on, Portland, where are you? Bring it up. We need constant chaos. We're the
That's right.
party of chaos. We need chaos here, people. Oh my God, because but it just seems so odd, Jason, that they don't seem to understand that the values of our parents are there, as Jordan Peterson would phrase it, an antidote to chaos.
Mhm.
I think he used that as a subtitle for one of his books, an
Yeah.
antidote to chaos. And he's very focused on the difference between chaos and structure. He always talks about hierarchies and things like that. The whole reason that we have all these rules and that there is such a thing as justice that is supposed to be blind to the emotional states of the people who witnessed it, or the pasts of the people involved,
That's right.
or whatever other things. It's just the law. That's why we don't play football games and basketballs based on the whim of the players at the time. There has to be some kind of structure. That's the antidote to chaos.
Mhm.
And conservatives aren't trying to take anybody's rights away at all on any level. All we're trying to do is maintain the structure of society in which everybody can have the freedom to do what they want. And
That's
you
right.
know and then we want to deal with the problems. We do want a better education system. We do want better opportunities for everybody regardless of color.
Right.
There's no movement on the right to get rid of rights for black people. That's just as
Right.
hogwash.
But there is a movement on the left to not make schools better, to not
Yes.
make inner city housing better. There's a real movement because if you make that better, then you don't you're taking their victim status and making it questionable at that point because you're giving them
Right.
something to and it's not everybody on the left. There are some good don't get we've talked about this many times. There are good Democrats, there are some good people on the left who really
There are.
see and work hard to do things to make things better. A good example is there's a school, and I can't tell you where it is right now, but a lot of the kids, the boys don't have fathers, and
Right.
a bunch of men in the community show up to school a few times a year and welcome them and tell them, hey, give me a call if you need anything, and so on. You got
Unfortunately, they're all gay men. Just kidding. I'm just joking. Just-
you got a football coach who's out there after practice. He takes his players and he shows them how to change a tire on their car. He shows them how to
Fantastic.
change the oil.
Right.
He shows them how to write, a job resume, all these things that we should be teaching people how to live. Instead, we're focusing on, algebra 2, and worse than that, we're focusing on, um, uh, uh, I can't even think of the word now, but it's all about what's the
Yeah,
word?
you're talking about this kind of new abstract math that,
That and then
hey,
the
I know
racial
there's a simple way to do it, but let's do it in a confusing way.
right, and then the racial component, right? You got
Right.
everything they want to critical race theory and those kinds of things.
Well,
When
just
in reality, teach a guy how to pay his taxes, teach him how to get a job, teach a man to fish,
right.
and
Well,
and he'll
well,
do fine.
let's look at Dante Wright. Here's a kid, 20 years old. Did he go to a charter school? Did he have to show up every day wearing a uniform and talk to his teachers in terms of sir, ma'am? Did he have the community involvement that charter schools always work for, where
Mhm.
you have a network of neighbors and friends who are always there to say, Dante, you know that being in the school you're in is a privilege. You know that you're there because they see potential in you, and you know that when your teachers are tough on you, it's because they believe in you. You know
Mhm.
that, don't you, Dante? That would be coming from his aunt or somebody else in the neighborhood. That's the way they deal with charter schools. They try to bring in community involvement. They try to make the parents be proactive. They bring in. Did Dante Wright go to a charter school? No. Where he went, and we don't even have to ask.
That's
Where
right.
he went was regular old public schools that are being ruled over by the Democratic Party by way of teachers unions, and that's plain and simple. If you're looking for systemic racism, look no further. That's where it starts. That's where the prison, the school to prison pipeline they talk about.
Right.
I'm sorry, who's in charge of the schools?
That's right.
And in blue states, who's in charge of the prisons?
Right.
Where are the Republicans? Where's the Republican involvement in the school to prison pipeline?
Right.
It's simply not there.
It's not there because the pipeline apparently only starts in black communities, right? The pipeline isn't in a rural setting, right? The pipelines begin in the black communities where obviously there isn't a single inner city that's run by Republicans.
There isn't.
That's right.
And so, I mean,
Hey, we got
it,
Joanna, your friend Joanna. She said, "Thanks for coming on live today."
hey, Joanna.
Thanks, Joanna. And then let's see. Oh, we had something else here.
I love my Southern Belle.
Yeah, she's a Southern Belle.
She is.
Nice.
It's Joanna Hildreth.
That's correct. Where's she from? I don't want
See,
to
I
out. I don't want.
remember things.
I don't want
I
to out her.
listen. I listen when the women's is talking.
Yeah, only the pretty ones, right, Dave?
That's a personal character failing on my part. I'm afraid that I do have certain biases in that area, but I prefer even the less knockout chicks to guys.
There you go. Yeah, exactly, right? That's
Yeah,
funny.
doesn't take much to win my attention over the
No.
fellas.
Um, as far as where we go from here, the Democrats have made it absolutely clear that nothing has changed, nothing is gonna change, nothing they don't want anything to change.
And they're not
And
interested in unity.
right. What do we do from our side? I feel like we gotta start electing people who aren't afraid to stand up and say the things we're saying.
Right. Where I was yesterday, the meeting that I was taking, I was meeting with John Wood Jr., who is the national ambassador of Braver Angels, and we met in person and we ate at a Cuban restaurant. So here's a white guy and a black guy eating at a Cuban restaurant in a obviously racist society.
Wow.
But anyway, the meeting was to discuss doing some musical events in LA. And I'm now, our friend Andrew is starting an organization that is uh, opening with a $2 million a year budget. He's our rich friend who is a high tech guy, um, and he's asked me to be on a non-paid board member of that. So, but part of what they're going to do is they're going to put out funding to people. They're going to help out channels like ours a little bit if we're struggling. But mainly, what they're is I'm talking with him tomorrow on a Zoom call, so I don't have all the details. But the thing that he's really starting this new organization for is to stand up for people who are being canceled by the cancel culture, and because people are really losing their jobs and things like that, and nobody defends them.
That's right.
So this is and this is sort of the thing that he's aiming at, to put resources in that. And he's got some great people on board already, and I'll just be one in the mix somewhere in there, representing all you blue collar guys. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that maybe he might contribute to some of this music based getting together with people, because we have to get together with the people on the other side who are not very far from us. And I'm hearing, like when I did that video about those friends of mine who have been sort of avoiding me for several years, and now they're reaching out to me. And you can hear that in two different ways. You can say, "Oh, now that Trump's gone, now they're going to forgive you and let you back in. Oh, don't trust them ever again." Or maybe you could see it now that Trump is not there and they're not so terribly afraid of being called by the other people, the extremists in their group,
Mhm.
that will bring them a lot of problem. That they're reaching out to me because they've been listening to my videos. They understand that I was never really wrong about this stuff, and they're making sure that I know that, hey, I'm open to some discussion. They're
Right.
I didn't seek them out; they're seeking me out, and that shows on their side that they are reasonable people.
Right.
They're willing to, even if they stay liberals for the rest of their life. They're not writing me off. They were just under social pressure.
Right.
Like what Joe talks about, pressure is a big thing on the left, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's it's easy to forget on our side. We're getting the pressure so much that we've just gone, "You know what? Forget you guys. I don't
Right.
care. Say what you wanna say about me. Call me what you wanna call me. It does not hurt my feelings, but I'll still even have a dialogue with you about whatever you're talking about because I know I can make some points that you're gonna go, well, I hear that, um, but yeah, we forget how much that pressure is on their own side and how
Right.
hard that is because they don't agree with us on a lot of things, or they think they don't agree with us on a lot of things because they've been told what our issues are or how we fall on the issues. So
Right.
they got all that pressure, and yeah, they can't come over to our side, right? They can't come over and talk to us in a friendly manner because they're going to say, how can you talk to a Nazi? How can you talk to this?
Well, but that was particularly at a fever pitch because the left had so effectively portrayed Donald Trump as a racist.
That's right.
And so, but now with that pressure down a little bit, we're going to notice that some of them are reaching out. And so what they're saying is, hey, I'm open. And the old saying is that if you're not a socialist when you're 20, you don't have a heart, and if you're not a conservative by 50 or 40 or whatever it is, you don't have, in my case, 57.
72. I'm just kidding.
You don't have a brain.
Yeah.
It doesn't go in the other direction. You don't hear about masses of people who are conservative when they're young, and then later in life they become liberal.
That's right.
It's just not as common. The living life and competing legitimately and having to face the accountability of day-to-day life tends to make people more conservative as they get older. So why are we not admitting that our job as conservatives is also slightly outreach? As a Christian, everybody gets that. They go that, look, if an atheist friend called, let me just talk directly to our people right now, the people that think I'm full of shit, because I dare to talk across the aisle. If you're a Christian and an atheist called you up and wanted to have a conversation with you, would you turn that person away?
Right.
Would you? So where is your evangelical spirit when it comes to the values and to what is good for our country? You're going to let me just do it all by myself?
Right.
You're going to say, and no, I'm not even going to watch Dave's videos anymore. I'm only watching Jason's videos. I'm not going to watch Dave's videos because he's too nice to liberals. I'm trying to create a safe space for liberals to come in and read the comment thread and go, these people aren't bad. But instead I do a thing and all I read is the comments of people yelling at me. And they're thinking, well, obviously there's no home for me over here. Just Dave even reaching out at all gets him attacked. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to think that you're going to help the conservative movement, get off your ass and make a friend. And you see that California plate come into your neighborhood, don't just walk around going, oh, they're ruining our country. You be the first one with the casserole. Casserole diplomacy.
Yeah.
Is what I'm calling this. You be the first one in the door and say, hey, we're just right down the street. We saw you moved in. You're here from California. Well, that's, I hope that you'll hang out, and we have a block party here every once in a while, and make sure you come on out and join us. Be the one there that is showing your humanity, because their whole schmear on us is that we don't have regular humanity, but we do.
Yeah.
And so if we can just break down the idea that we're not a bunch of hard ass, prejudiced warmongers, which is really easy to do because we're not.
Well, ironically,
but we can't if we don't interact.
Ironically,
sorry for the speech, guys.
That's okay.
Ironically, more than enough speeches in return.
we get painted as the party of the greedy rich people. We get painted as the rednecks, of the poor, rural, backwoods, marry your cousin type people who hate anybody who doesn't look like us. We get painted all the way around.
Right.
And the easiest way to show somebody that you're not that is hang out with them. There was a senator
hang out with them. Exactly.
There was a senator, or no, he was a congressman from Mississippi, and I can't think of his name, but he basically said, he was a black guy, and he says, you want to fight against racism? Befriend somebody from a different race. That's it.
Exactly.
You'll do much more for the whole thing, the whole situation, by just being a friend to somebody than you will by trying to change some laws, or trying to make hate laws, or trying to do any of these other things, marching in the streets and so on. Go to your neighbor's house. Go to the friend's house. When you play basketball at the gym, when you're working out and you see the guy next to you and you go, oh man, this guy does the workout I do. Say, hey man, how you doing? And make a friend. Now, every time this guy goes to the gym, he goes, oh, there's that Jason guy. He's a nice guy. And then when he finds out you're a conservative, he doesn't go like, whoa, I didn't know he was a Nazi. He goes, oh, he thinks differently.
Maybe they're not all Nazis.
But he's a nice guy. I've always liked that guy.
Yeah.
We got a couple people come in here. We got this is Audra Knoll Zenitram, if that's a real name. I tried. Purpose has been stripped out of people. The centralizing forces like religion have been pushed so far away, and the lack of conflicts and problems to solve have made people create problems themselves. Tough times are coming. Now, without getting religious, there are a lot of people who are looking for something when they don't believe in religion. So you got a lot of people who believe in the green energy movement, the climate change movement. That's their thing. You got people who get into the LGBT thing, and that's their thing. You know, the race issue, that's their thing. They're finding something to believe in, and then they get to be in this group, and they get to gel as one, even though maybe it's around hating, maybe it's around all these other things, but they find that meaning that they were so sorely missing. I think that's a great point.
Yes, I agree. And one thing I just wanted to say because I was talking directly to the Christians, that the way that they have evangelized me over the years has been a model of how it's done. Like people will write a comment and they'll say, "Man, we love you. I hope someday that you find your way to Jesus."
Right.
You know, they don't like give me a string of comments and Bible quotes. I get that all the time, because I'm an agnostic, and well, I get that all the time. They don't, well, sorry, I can't listen to your videos anymore. I heard you say something about being an agnostic, so I'm out of here. They just go, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to do what I can to be a guiding influence toward a fulfilling thing that has enriched my life, that coming from their angle, right?" And so that's the way we have to evangelize for our values in that same way. And you can't very well do it by just being preaching to the choir. Hey, are we still mad at those people who aren't in the church? Okay, we just want to make sure. So we're
Right.
still angry, right? Okay, now let's sing a hymn about how screwed up the people who aren't in the church are. All right. And then this will be our entire religious observance. No, it has to be, there has to be a reach out at some point.
Right.
And, for instance, you were talking about Candace Owens. She goes and talks to big groups of Black people, whoever will have her.
That's right.
And, she's just a little, 105-pound chick standing on stage in front of 200 liberal Black people.
Right.
That is what we need.
Right.
That's the reach out that she's doing.
And I think
God bless her for that.
we definitely need to do, it's a combination. We can't sit back and just not point out what we've been doing about this trial and about race relations in America. We have to do that, but we also have to reach out. It's in church, they still point out that the devil's there, Satan's there, and that sin is bad and all those things, but they also are quick to say, but he who hasn't sinned, let him cast the first stone. Right?
Right.
Because we're all sinners, according to the Bible, according to God, we're all sinners, and we all need his grace and his forgiveness. Donovan Wirt said, "Thanks from Canada, you guys rock." And then Seth Sakala wrote 5 words, Tony Timpa and Daniel Schaefer. I'm actually not familiar with Daniel Schaefer, and that's probably because he's a white guy.
White.
He was killed by the police. Right. I know who Tony Timpa is, but I didn't even know who Tony Timpa was until this whole thing with George Floyd happened. Because, in the Tony Timpa case, they got video where he's on the gurney after it's over, and the other cop looks over and goes, "Man, I hope we didn't just kill him." He just says that under his breath to the other cop. And we would have never heard about that if it wasn't for the George Floyd thing. And then one more comment.
I would guess, Jason, that I would guess that not 1 in 20 of the people that you and I sometimes go back and forth with on Facebook are liberal friends from the musician community. I bet not 1 in 20 of them has ever heard the name Tony Timpa.
That's right.
Because it simply was it just didn't get into the CNN's broadcast.
Well, Cuomo talking about CNN, Cuomo the other day on his show, when he was talking to Van Jones, he said, if this was white, if these were white kids being killed by the police, then this would all end immediately. This would be over, right? Insinuating that no white people are killed by the police, when we know, I believe this year it's 50 white people have been killed by the police and 30 Black people killed by the police.
Right.
But historically, it's about 500 to 250 roughly every year, white to black. So that's just a lie. It's just another way to divide us and another way to spread this false narrative that
Sure.
white people don't have to deal with, whether it's a bad cop or whether it's a white guy who is putting himself and putting the community at risk and was shot for a real reason.
Right. And this brings us back to what they would then say. If you were to bring that figure up, then Van would probably say, or, whoever would say, yes, but the white guys who were shot were committing crimes. The
Mhm.
white guys who were shot were not shot because they were white. They were shot in spite of they were white. And then most people go, "Oh, I see, white privilege." And they wouldn't say, "Well, what evidence do we have that the black guys were shot because of their color?"
That's right.
They were also resisting arrest. I mean, all of these people, Freddie Gray, Michael Brown, they were all doing crimes and then resisting arrest.
That's right.
That's the whole thing. They'd start out by going and making the decision to break the law. And then when a cop magically shows up because somebody called the cop because you had a victim for your crime, and then they decide, well, going to jail ain't for me. I'm going to resist arrest, and then they get shot, and now they become a civil rights icon.
Right.
Where's the evidence that any of these things were done because of racism?
It's bass
They,
backwards.
yeah, there's never been any evidence presented in any of these cases that it was strictly racism. I can see that one that happened in, where was it, South Carolina? I forget where it was, where the
Yeah.
guy kind of chased that guy through the trees and shooting at him,
Yeah, Walter,
shot him.
I think his name was Walter, Scott.
Scott.
Yeah. Yeah,
Now, I will say that looked to me like you might make the case for racism about that one.
and guess what? No one, not one white person, not one black person, not one person anywhere said, "You know what? He was just doing his job." They all said, "Nah, dude, you can't shoot a guy running away, especially a guy that could hardly run. That guy was barely running.
Right.
You can't shoot a guy in the back like that." And that guy, guess what? That cop got arrested and went to jail, and everybody on our side of the aisle, everybody on their side of the aisle said, "Yeah, that's what happens when a cop kills somebody like that."
Right.
You know?
But it didn't have that for some reason that one really didn't take off. And I don't know why. I would have thought that they would have really, that one would have really taken off, but it
Well, because
didn't.
everybody was outraged
Yeah.
immediately, right? Let's got another comment here.
Well, we
JC
were pretty
Bridge.
outraged about the about George Floyd as well. Most white people were pretty outraged about it as well. But it had all the pieces there.
It was
The
a
knee on the neck. That's kind of like symbolic of white people pinning down the black person in general. And in fact, that's what Biden actually said in his speech. It was a knee on the neck to black people.
Yeah. We can't forget it was an election year.
Yeah.
We can't forget that part of it.
Well,
That's a
he
huge.
said that yesterday.
No, I know, but I'm saying
Right.
this whole case happened during an election year, right? This was how much, I mean, how much money was raised because of that from the NBA and Black Lives, for Black Lives Matter and so on, and how much money of that went to the black community or went to Democrat politicians.
Right.
Right. When you start looking at that stuff, you realize what that was, I think, what that was about. JC Bridge, from our friend from Holland, it says, "This reminds me when my parents and family died by bombs in the Iraq War under Obama administration. All my families died. I saw my mother dying before my eyes, my dad losing his legs. You know what? Justice never happened for me."
Hmm.
And this story is dreadfully sad. I
Yeah.
can't imagine. I just sure hope they get things together in Holland to where you can have the life you deserve and a much better life than what you had left. And I apologize that our country was involved in your situation.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people don't have any idea really what justice means. It doesn't have to do with the particulars of any person involved. It has to do with the rules. What are the laws? And all people should be treated equally, and we should be just as sensitive to to something that's happening to any poor black person as to any poor white person.
That's
We
right.
should be just as sensitive to the underserved and to immigrants that are trying to get into this country. We should look at everybody with a free eye, and just go, okay, how do we make these people fit in here? If do we need them? With immigration, I think that we should, have these running lists of what jobs are needed, and
Right.
say, hey, if you can come in and you've got decent English, and you can go directly into the training here for this company, they'll take you on and train you. Or if you've already been trained as a heavy equipment operator or a computer operator or whatever it is, and we've got some openings, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's me. Conservative values is to treat everybody alike and to look at the good of all, but not to look at it, in terms of what's the good of this individual group as opposed to this other individual group.
Right.
I don't think it's collectivism to be looking at the good of all. I think that's citizenship. That's patriotism,
Right. We should be
to be
looking on an
looking at the good
individual
of all.
basis in everything. And you know what? Everybody does this in their personal life,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I don't go, you know what? I'm going to hang out with my neighbor today. I know he's a big jerk and he's awful and he gets drunk and tries to start a fight, but I'm going to hang out with him again tonight because, it's not his fault. He's a big drunk. It's only fair. No, in my own life, I go like, no, I'm not hanging out with that guy. That guy's a jerk. Right.
Right.
And I move on. And I don't judge anybody else by the color of that guy's skin or his gender or his sexual orientation or any of that stuff. I look at him and I go, well, he's a jerk, period. That's it. Right. And we all do that in our own lives. But then when you try to have this free conversation about it in greater society, we got the left trying to not allow that conversation to happen. And
Yes.
that's a very big problem. I got another comment here from 11 Bravo Crunchy.
We know him.
We know him. Hobo Dojo for the win, he says. Have you guys considered setting up a Discord server for community discussion?
Yes, I have thought about that, and I just got confused about it. Doesn't it need a couple of moderators or something like that? Is it the kind of thing that Crunchy could set up?
I
You know what it is, right?
I don't
It's
know what it is.
okay. What it is, Discord server is a place where it's like it's a chat room that's linked to this channel in some way, or it's about this channel. We're always asking him further questions, right?
He just thinks we're trying to use him for money at this point.
Crunchy, come back at us again and tell us how it's done.
Oh no.
Or write to me at my email, which is you can find if you look for it.
Yeah, you can look for it.
You know
on,
how
on
it's, and we can get our heads together, because I think that's a really worthy thing, But anyway, it's a chat room that's going on, and it's like they have it on Patreon and stuff, but people don't have to join it. So we could go over there and we could interact with people, with
Okay.
all the extra spare time that you have, Jason.
No problem. I'm all the time there, He wrote, I'd be happy to assist. I have my own. So he has one. So he knows how it
Okay.
works, obviously. So yeah, email Dave and then maybe we can get something started. I think we're all about the Discord. We're all about the talking with people and having discussions.
Discord. We're all about the discourse.
Discourse.
Discord is when the discourse has failed. That's why it's weird that they call it the Discord server.
Well, there you go. I guess
maybe it was meant to be
a place to argue. My rural Kentucky education is showing through there. We also have another comment here. He said, no question, just sending a little something to say thank you for speaking the truth without fear. And and part of what we're doing is not because I feel like I'm so brave, let's say, or whatever it might be. Part of what we're doing is I feel like is showing other people, hey, talk, say what you think. Don't be ashamed about it. Like, obviously, if you're a racist and you say racist things, you're gonna get called out by not just the people on the left or Democrats. You're gonna get called out by everyone, because that's not welcome on our side either.
Right, right.
right? But don't be afraid to speak your mind, and you don't have to do it by belittling anyone else necessarily or attacking anyone else. And yeah, so
Well, I
hope.
mentioned it as I mentioned with to John Wood Jr. at lunch. Um, he's the national ambassador of Braver Angels, which is the organization which is balanced at every level between conservatives and liberals. And it's everybody who joins knows damn well that sooner or later they're going to have to talk to somebody who disagrees with them.
Mhm.
And so everybody comes in there and they take their deep breaths before they go online or whatever. And I'm meeting with a whole bunch of them tonight. We're going to throw some songs around, and I will likely be the only conservative in the room.
Mhm.
And discussions will go on, and it comes to me, and I'll go, well, I'm more conservative than the rest of you guys, but the way I see it is this. And you don't hear the mental car doors slamming shut. They sometimes they have to take a little bit of a breath, and then they go, but that's why we're here. They're making the effort of joining together with people, and I try to say things in the most reasonable way, and I don't say anything that I know is going to offend anybody really too much. But it's going to be a little tenuous tonight,
That's right.
because I'm going to be in a room, because I'm in the that's on the musician end of Braver Angels, and it is not quite as balanced, because there's just not that many conservatives in the music business. So,
Yeah.
I told John yesterday, I said, it's so refreshing to me to be able to be in conversation with people that I know won't agree with me, that I also know won't attack me, that I don't have to worry about there being somebody making a scene or storming out and, oh, I'm not talking any more Nazis. I'm out of here. It's okay to punch a Nazi, and then so it's not any of that at all. They go, oh, okay. And then they kind of internally adjust, and they say, look, that's what we're here for. We're here to dialogue with each other and get to know each other across
Yeah.
the center divide. So it really does feel like you're saying, um, to have we're not doing this out of some kind of bravery. We're just trying to do it. I think we're trying in our way to help a little bit to liberate people, so they feel a little bit more comfortable just talking about these ideas.
Right.
And I think we've changed the minds of a lot of LA liberals, don't you?
I definitely know some, um, and then I know some who I wouldn't say changed their mind, but they said, "Oh, well, Jason, that's interesting." And then
Yeah.
they got that little nugget to sit on, right? So the next time they hear something online, or next time they hear a politician say something, they'll now draw that up in their mind and go like, "Well, you know what? Jason made the point. Now I see how this person on their side is really exaggerating whatever the point they're trying to make." And I see, so I we definitely made some headway.
Yeah,
Um,
and we're just trying to offer the best kind of thinking that we can come up with, just as part of the general conversation.
That's right. And then, that was Rob that said, "No question, just thanks for the speaking without fear." Um, and, we I
Thank you,
think
Rob.
I think it's gonna be nice for, 11 Bravo Crunchy, if he wants to help you set up this page or set up this thing, because that could anyone who shows up there from their side to start having a conversation, most people are probably gonna be kind of like the Braver Angels mindset, where they're going, "Well, I'm going in here to talk about how I see things and to hear how these people see things." And I think that's about all you can ask from somebody
Well,
you
I'm not sure
disagree
that we
with.
would have very many liberals on the Discord server, because it would be linked to this channel. But
Yeah.
hopefully there would be, if we do something like this, and then those guys could go over to the Discord server, and then they could have a real conversation there without us dominating it, because we happen to have the camera.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, I
So
think, I'm winding down here. It's
me
10:30.
too.
It's about time for me to have a breakfast and, uh and,
Well, this has been helpful for me, Jason. Just, it's always good to just get together and chat with you a little bit, even if we're just sort of blurting shit out, because these are tough times, man. It's hard not to feel discouraged.
yeah, the guitologist came in, engaging you're gonna love this comment, engaging in a convo with lunatics is just lending credence to the lunacy. Just say, "Here I am. Here's my gun. Take it if you dare. What else is there to say?"
Well, Brad knows I love him, but you know, when I'm out there, Brad, I'll be out there pretty soon, and I'm gonna visit you probably next month. I'm gonna be out there with my sister, and
Ah.
we'll drag you, you hardened, heavily bearded hermit. We'll drag you out of there. We'll take you down to Nashville, and we'll force you to talk to a liberal.
Here's my gun. Take it if you dare. What else is there to say? Oh man. You know, he's not gonna change any minds, but but
but
he
he can fix your Mesa Boogie amp. If you've got a Mesa Boogie amp, this is sorry, Brad. I'm doing this out of meanness, the meanness of my heart. If you have a Mesa Boogie amp that is misbehaving, Brad's your guy. He loves working on those.
there you go.
It's his least favorite amplifier to fix.
And especially work on it if you write songs about social justice.
Right. I'm hoping that I can get together with Brad, and we can craft some a new version of Kumbaya, maybe the hip hop version.
Oh, okay. Maybe these jokes might be falling flat on some of you guys, but
Yeah, I'm not very good in the morning.
no, the joke is good. It's just kind of tailored to Brad. We're out here talking to one guy at this end of the show. Let's see how many people are left on here. 543 people are still here. Amazingly, it'll only be Brad in about 5 minutes if we stay any longer.
I just tried to imagine 543 people jammed into a combination of Jason's garage and the Hobo Dojo.
Yeah,
Can you
nothing but a good time. Wait,
you couldn't get 20 people in here.
let's
You
see
could, but
real quick. 11 Bravo Crunchy came back. Discord is really easy to set up. There are step-by-step guidelines on their website, and you can link it to Patreon and Subscribestar. And I don't know what either one of those. I know what Patreon is. I don't know what Subscribestar is, but we're definitely going to look into it. Thanks.
Subscribestar is another version of Patreon that I
Okay.
believe is less inclined, or at least believed to be less inclined to go woke and suddenly throw somebody off their platform like they did to Sargon of Akkad, Carl
Mhm.
Benjamin, the commentator.
Yeah.
And that was why Jordan Peterson left Patreon and why Dave Rubin left Patreon. Thank
Yeah.
you. This has been your history lesson, your
Yeah.
YouTube history lesson.
Boy, he left making like $60,000 a month or something. Uh, Jordan Peterson, something crazy like that, which is
That was a strong move those two guys made.
yeah. I mean, that's when you believe in something and you stand up for something. Sometimes the move isn't the things you need to do aren't the most pleasant in some ways, you know.
Yeah,
And
it's true.
that's kind of circles back to what we're talking about with this whole situation. We got to start having, just to end this thing, maybe wrap this thing up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
We got to start having some conversation about what it is that people, whether they're in the Black community or not, whether they're Hispanic or not, can do to change the outcome, not only with the police when they get an interaction, but with the direction of their lives and so on.
Right. And we just wanted to add one last thing. What I've been saying a lot when people ask me, what I mean by conservative values, and I just been defaulting to this really simple thing that seems to work. I just go, you know what? I'm just trying to live by what my parents taught me. You
Yeah.
know, but so maybe I'm not the most advanced guy, but they were good people, and I'm just trying to live by the values of my parents. And I think that that rather than always saying something like conservative, I'm conservative values, just say, the values of my parents. People
Yeah.
can always get that. They can understand that. That
Lastly,
doesn't.
I'm going to throw out there, okay, just wrote, thanks, guys. Lost my father-in-law today. He lived the values you guys speak to. Take it easy. Well, we're sorry for your loss, okay? That's his
Yeah,
name, okay?
condolences from all 500 and how many of them
I
plus
don't know,
there are.
43, 544, I don't
Yeah,
know. And whoever else watches this, yeah, I lost my father this year, last year, at the end of last year, and it's tough. But it's also makes it easy knowing that when they're a good guy that worked hard, that did the right thing, then it doesn't make it easier that you lost them, but it makes it nicer when all the people say, "Hey, your dad was a great guy. We loved him.
Right.
He always was there for us and all that kind of stuff. So,
You
um,
know, the in the Jewish community, they have a saying, "May his memory be a blessing."
mhm,
And if you think about that, sometimes in the relationships you have as your parents get older, um, to think, when they're gone, I hope that I've had the relationship that with them that thinking about them will be a blessing, and I
mhm.
won't think about them and go, "God, I wish I could have done that differently." Now that my mom's 93, and I just got back from visiting her again, and I'm trying to go 4 times a year now because I don't wanna when she'll be gone soon, and, I want her memory to be a blessing, you
Yeah.
know?
All right.
So, my brother, so
Well, thanks, Dave, and thanks everybody for tuning in, and all those that donated, that did a super chat. We appreciate that. Obviously, we have our links on our website in the description. If you want to buy a T-shirt, you want to do anything like that, and support us that way, we appreciate it. And share these videos when you can, and let's just keep fighting the good fight.
and this feel doing this, we know that this is a small part of what we do here and not our major thing, but I don't know, it helps me. It helps me feel less isolated that we can when we're getting some kind of back and forth with the people out there, even if there's just a small number, there's not 20,000 people or something like that. I think it's better if there's like 500, something like that, because it feels more like a group of people maybe just getting together and hanging out. It would be nice if we could figure out a way, like maybe with the Discord server. Bravo Crunchy, we'll see what we can come up with, and therefore maybe we can always go over there later on and have further discussions.
Yeah. All
So
right. Well,
y'all take
I'm
care of yourselves. Thank you, Jason.
all right. I'm going to end this stream.
All
See you
right, you
guys.